Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Hello and welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Let me tell you, there are certain asset classes and certain industries, scientific and medical industries, that are emerging now. I think there are investing opportunities, and I'm speaking with a true expert in the field. He is Dr. Roger McIntyre from Champignon Brands, which is capitalizing on the emergence of psychedelic medicines for mental health conditions. And if you're interested in checking it out as a stock, which you really should, on the CSE Canadian Exchange, ticker symbol SHRM, in the United States on the OTC markets, ticker symbol SHRMF. Dr. McIntyre, welcome to Looking at the Markets, sir.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate having you. And this is really exciting for me, this psychedelics market. But let's get a good definition from you, a world-renowned expert. What are psychedelics?
The definition's been broad, but perhaps I'm going to keep it narrow for our conversation today.
Sure.
A more kind of working, kind of utilitarian definition. It's a treatment that alters your perception and it alters your experience. And I'll leave it as that. And the reason why I'll leave it as that is because there's many different types of drugs and classes of drugs that are loosely referred to as psychedelics. The one that comes to mind immediately is drugs like LSD or even psilocybin, which is the drug that's in mushrooms. There's a more broader definition, which is lacking precision, but is still there, that would include other drugs like ketamine as psychedelics. I say it again as a pharmacologist, that ketamine's included in that conversation, but it's not purely a psychedelic.
Yeah, and you're considered a world-renowned expert, one of the few, and you run the only clinic of its kind in the world in relation to psychedelic medicine and the particular niche of research that you're conducting. Can you explain not only your background, but what the clinic that you run does?
Absolutely. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also a pharmacologist, which simply means I'm a person who has academically been involved in developing new drug treatments for depression. It's the area I've worked at for over 20 years. And most of my career has been in the pursuit of very novel drugs that can help people who have depression and related conditions, like, for example, post-traumatic stress disorders. And that journey over 2 decades now has only really told me and informed me that we've got to go a different direction. So at Champignon, what we've done, we have clinics that can currently, today, give ketamine. The FDA in the United States describes ketamine as a breakthrough. The FDA has never been accused of using too many superlatives, and it's a breakthrough drug for depression, the first true breakthrough in 7 decades, quite frankly, getting people better at a higher rate faster in one day, and also getting them back to their usual role function. We give this now at our clinics. In addition, we do research. And we're doing research on our own patients. This is something nobody else does in this area. And we are the world's leader, according to Clarivate Analytics, in depression research by doing our own research on our own patients, not only with ketamine derivatives, but also, in fact, psychedelics. And we are in the process now of synthesizing and sourcing our own psychedelics for our own testing in our own patients. So we are an integrated center that is able to provide the treatment, but also develop the new treatments in-house, intramurally, at our clinic in Toronto, but also our newly acquired clinic in California. And we're expanding to up to 7 clinics before year end.
Yeah, and I want people to check out champignonbrands.com for more information on today's guest and on the company, which is doing the cutting edge research. But what progress is being made in the industry right now, and what's the size of this market and the potential for decriminalization or even full legalization?
Well, the tragedy is that depression and related conditions are very common. They're the most common mental disorders in North America and around the world. The way that it's often described is through economics and the cost of medication. about $15 billion a year is spent on drugs related to depression. This is an incredible amount of people who are affected. Just to give you an example, 10% of people in the United States over the age of 13 are prescribed an antidepressant. They're commonly prescribed. Unfortunately, very few people have a full recovery on the existing antidepressants. Only about maybe 15 to 20% do. So it's a tremendous unmet need. So here's this massive number of people as reflected by the economics of this, and only about 15 to 20% are achieving the goals that they want to achieve. So this is a huge opportunity. The regulatory environment has changed, the FDA declaring not just ketamine, but psychedelics, potential breakthroughs. They're going to fast track them. This has created a positive regulatory environment, which for us is ideal because we actually have spent many, many years, 2 decades, in drug discovery and development. And our intention is, in fact, to take our own products through early laboratory work and laboratory testing into healthy volunteers and what we call first in patient, which is better known as phase 2, in phase 2 studies, which will then demonstrate, we hope, the efficacy and the safety of the intervention, and then we'll partner with industry, larger pharma, to take it forward through so-called phase 3 and FDA and regulatory approval.
Now, the company that you're leading, which is Champignon Brands, what's the business model of this company? What are the revenue sources? And what are the competitive advantages, that economic moat that I look for whenever I invest in a company?
Absolutely. There's two really sources of revenue for our company. We currently provide ketamine, and we provide ketamine according to best practices, which means either intravenous or intranasal. There's no evidence right now that giving it intramuscular or oral is even supported by the evidence. In fact, we recommend don't do it in our recent Canadian guidelines. Do not give it intramuscular POs. We're giving it according to best practices. That's important. And our clinics are just simply functions of multiples. We have profit generated at our clinics. Again, I told you we're expanding to 7 this year, up to 20 next year. In addition, at the same time, what we're doing is we are going to be producing our own products, ketamine derivatives and the psilocybin or other psychedelic derivatives. And those products will be developed up to phase 2. And at phase 2, we've got ongoing relationships with large pharmaceutical companies in their R&D area. And we would anticipate, for example, an acquisition of an asset from us at that stage. And that is a significant source of revenue. And it's not too far in the future for us to get to that stage, given our intramural capability, is about 2 years from now. Just to benchmark that, it's usually around 4 to 6 years to get to the end of phase 2. So we feel that this is not just a de-risking by having our current clinics provide existing treatment, but it's also, in fact, an opportunity to generate revenue all the while we're generating our own assets. So it's quite extraordinary. It's something that I've never seen before after almost 25 years in this area. Any organization have this capability. And again, I think there's a reason why we always ask for someone's resume. We want to know what their history has been. Past history, past behavior, usually, not always, predicts future behavior. And we have a 20-odd year history of doing this. And so we're fairly confident that the quality proposition is very much in place, which is as important as having a quality asset.
Yeah. You know, many people find that with traditional antidepressant medications they get from their doctor now, they're either ineffective or addictive, or, you know, it's not necessarily in the interest of mega pharma corporations to look out for the best interest of the patients. So this really presents a compelling alternative. Do you think it'll take a long time, many years, for the public to become educated about the argument in favor of psychedelics as a solution?
I think it'll take some time. I mean, I guess how long is a long time is a bit like asking how long is a piece of string. So it's going to depend how we define what a long time is. I would say this. I would say that the population currently has an attitude towards psychedelics and ketamine that is an understandable carryover from the stigma of these drugs being scheduled. They're Schedule 1 drugs, which simply means they're illegal to be walking around the streets with them. Many would know that they've been drugs of abuse and misuse and used in party culture and so on. And that clearly is a stigma that will need to be addressed, and that will be addressed. I certainly think it helps the situation that the FDA has identified these treatments as these drugs, ketamine and psychedelics, as possible breakthroughs. These are breakthrough drugs. They got breakthrough stat. That certainly helps that the government is endorsing these treatments. That's a credibility I think that's going to be required. I also think that there's a shift that's occurring. We saw this, I guess, with cannabis, which is a different animal altogether, in the sense that cannabis really had no role in treating depression or bipolar, some of the conditions I'm talking about. But we saw shifts politically, socially, legally, in attitudes. I think it can happen. I think, like most things in life, it does help to have some data. And I think when the data begin to appear that these psychedelics are safe and effective for select disorders, that will ring true, and that'll certainly catapult the legitimacy even forward. Ketamine has already been approved for depression in over 40 countries around the world. So we're already seeing the embrace in the utilization of these treatments. So I think it's a combination of factors. I think what the society, especially during COVID-19, is recognizing is that mental health matters. We've seen destigmatization of mental illness generally, and I think you'll see a carryover into some of these drugs, and that will be catapulted by regulatory approval, as well as, in fact, good science, showing that they're saving people's lives. And that's exactly what we plan to do with our research, is to show that they work, they're safe, and it can really change people's lives.
It really sounds to me like Champignon is on the forefront of ketamine research. I'm really interested to see what's next. What's coming down the pipeline? What should we expect next from the clinic and from the company?
What you can expect is that the company is going to be expanding its clinics in terms of our acquisitions. Again, we're bullish on this, up to 7 by year-end 2020, additional 20 next year. And we're well funded at this point to, in fact, really begin this process, which is well underway. We have our recent California acquisition. We're in extensive talks with organizations in Texas, Florida, and also in New York City, and those are going on as we speak right now. At the same time, we are also have a research group that's well oiled and moving forward, results oriented. Synthesis already underway, early pharmacology being done with some of our ketamine derivatives, which means some of the metabolites and some of the relatives of ketamine, as well as some of the psilocybin moieties or molecules. And not get too lost into the science speak here, but we're basically taking promising molecules that are in the same zip code, so to speak, as ketamine and psilocybin, and we're taking those in our own IP-capable platforms, and we're testing them now, and those studies are just about to get up and going. So we're bullish in all ways, and we are certainly, in fact, see equally the importance of having the clinic at the point of care to give the treatment, as well as develop our own new assets that we're going to move to the front of the store once in fact, they are ready at phase 2.
I'm quite bullish on this. Once again, if people want to get involved with an investment on the CSE exchange in Canada, SHRM, almost like shroom, easy to remember, and on the OTC market, SHRMF. Just got to put that F at the end of the ticker symbol there. Dr. McIntyre, if people want to learn more about the company and for investor inquiries, what's the best way to get in touch?
Go to our website. You mentioned earlier, champignonbrands.com is a good place to start. You can definitely check out that. And as well, certainly watch programs like yours and certainly follow this space and follow it closely. And I think it's going to be really important for people to be aware there are significant differences between different organizations in this area. And I think it's the human capital, it's the track record, it's having our own clinics doing our own research that really stands us apart. So I'm extremely exhilarated by what's going on right now with Champignon, but they can go to champignonbrands.com.
Research is the key, as I say so many times. Thank you, Dr. Roger McIntyre, Champignon Brands. I will put a link in the description below this video. Click on it. go to champignonbrands.com or just type it into your browser. Either way, it's all good as long as you get there and check it out. Dr. McIntyre, we will definitely have to have you back on the program for updates. But for now, signing off, thank you for coming on to my show. I appreciate it very much today.
Thanks for having me. All the very best to you.